I'm sick, so if I sound off, you already know why. Man, I keep thinking about what the fuck just happened with Shannon, man. That was creepy. Kinzo and Genji could be seen in the VIP room, both of them. Kinzo was sitting back in a chair, his eyes closed, as though in a troubled sleep.
親方様、お客様がお見えになりました。
Kinzo slowly opened his eyes. Those eyes were red from crying. Right, because Beatrice is dead. They regained their focus and slowly fell on Will.
私が後宮金蔵である。
ウィル。
ウィラードだ。お悔やみ申し上げる。
ベアトリーチェの葬儀に訪ねてくるとは、そなたは何者なのか。
誰でもない。誰とも関係ない。深く考えるな。頭痛になら。
Really? Is that his catchphrase, by the way? Just like Battler has his own? You'll get a headache?
もう少し言葉遣いにご注意をお願いいたします。
Is she still pinching him in his ass?
おかしな客人だ。それで、この私に何用か。
Now then, is Kinzo dead? Because he's supposed to be dead. The aged head of the Ushiromiya family, brimming with energy, despite being pronounced to have only a short time left to live. Amassed a vast fortune, but has never made any announcement about his inheritance, which worries his children. Strongly influenced by the West and a rabid fan of the occult. His study is packed. Okay, so they didn't say anything. Isn't he supposed to be dead, though? Is he actually alive? Is this his true personality?
ベアトリーチェのことを聞きたい。
何?
Kinzo's gaze grew sharp. Uh-oh. Leon felt a bit lightheaded and wondered why this guy had to be so direct.
聞いてどうする。お前は誰でもないのである。ベアトリーチェのことを知ってどうするという。何の意味があるというのか。
俺が誰でもないからこそ、お前の物語を公正に聞き、残すことができる。お前はじきにこの世を去る。その時、ベアトリーチェのことを何も語らずに死んだのだ。お前の子供たちは、彼らが好き勝手に考えた物語で、ベアトリーチェを就職し、記録に残すのだ。
Damn! What a way to spin it. Look at the way he's spinning it so he'll make Kinzo talk.
面白い若造。お前は遺言やを気取ろうというわけか。だが、それは余計なお世話というものよ。ベアトリーチェは私だけのベアトリーチェだ。我が何を語ろうとも、私とあれの物語は誰にも怪我せぬ。何の意味も持たぬ。クラウスたちがどう曲解しようとも痛くも痒くもないわ。
ウィラード様、親方様は遺言を好まれます。
Wait a minute, is that supposed to be a joke? The master doesn't like wills?
生きているうちより何事かを投げ出すお方ではございません。
だろうな。らしからぬこととは思っていた。
誠意ある限りあがいてこそ人間であろうが、それを早々に諦め遺言に残そうという浅ましさなど少子千万。
確かにその方がお前らしい。死ぬかもしれないから過去語りを記せと言い出すのは確かにお前の柄じゃない。
当主様がベアトリーチェ様のことを深く私たちにとって当主様は最大の尊敬の対象であるとともに 生きるすべての模範です。どうか迷える私たちのために、いかにしておじい様が彼女を愛し抜いたか、愛ゆえに生き抜いたか、その愛の強さを私たちにお導きくださるようお願いすることはできないでしょうか。
なかなか達者だ。
あなたの言葉を選ばないからです。
若ず、お前はベアトリーチェの何を知っているというのか。真に無知なる者は関心さえ持たん。ベアトリーチェの名を知っている時点で無知なる者ではなく縁なき者でもない。
道理だな。俺が知っているベアトリーチェは、お前がかつて六軒島に屋敷を設ける以前に出会った最愛の女だ。しかしおそらくは死別して娘を残した。それがクアドリアンで育てられていた娘だ。
ウィラードさん、当六軒島にクアドリアンなる建物は存在いたしません。
Oh, that is such bullshit.
そのクワドリアンという名前、さっきローザおばさんと話した時にも口にしていました。それは一体何なんですか？
察しはついてるはずだ。愛人の娘を囲う六軒島の森の奥深くにある隠し屋敷の名だ。
面白い。クワドリアンの名を知ろうと。
Damn, bitch. So that confirms it. Well, it's already confirmed because, I mean, we've seen it with our own fucking eyes, but damn, he admitted that?
お前に興味が出たぞ。
Kinzo shrugged and grinned. Okay, bitch. It's getting juicy.
ベアトリーチェの娘だろう。だが、少なくともお前はそうは思っていなかった。
ほう。ならば、何だと思っていたというのか。
後宮ローザはクアドリアンにて多少の身の上話を交わしている。その中でベアトリーチェはお前のことを指して金蔵と呼んでいる。これはお前を前にしても同じだ。彼女はお前を父と思っていると言ったにもかかわらず、父とは呼んでいなかった。呼ばなかったのか、呼ぶことは許されなかったのか。それが意味することは一つしかない。
それは何だというのか。
生まれ変わりだ。お前は娘を忘れがたみだとは思わなかった。死んだベアトリーチが新しい体で蘇ったと信じたんだ。源氏、あんたはかつて夏日たちの前で金蔵とベアトリーチに子供はいなかったと証言したことがあるな。
記憶にございませんが。
Damn, that's right, bitch, because you said it in a different reality. Of course, this game's Genji probably wouldn't remember that. No, he wouldn't because he never did say it. At least not this guy. However, near the end of the first game, when the survivors all gathered in Ginzo's study, damn, the first game, speaking of which, I only did one video revisiting it, but apparently I get a look at this sin that Battler did at the very start. Genji was asked whether Kinzo and Beatrice ever had a child together, and he denied it, saying, "I've not heard of anything like that."
聞いたことがないか。ある意味で金蔵の腹心らしい模範的な返答と言える。何しろ金蔵にとってその娘は生まれ変わりであって娘ではないんだ。
見る。何の話か分かりませんが、当主様への冒涜は許しません。
冒涜じゃねえ。推理だ。だが心は理解する。
Damn, bitch, is this love we're talking about?
ベアトリーチはお前にとって最愛の女だ。死んで色あせることなく永遠に。 だが美しい金髪に青い瞳を持ち、その面影を幼くして持ち合わせたその娘をお前は次第に生まれ変わりではないかと信じるようになったとして、それはおかしいことじゃね
え。親方様、よろしいのですか。
Shall I throw this insolent man out? Genji asked Kinzo. For a while, Kinzo hung his head in silence, as though remembering something from his own past.
娘は美しく育ち、生き写しになった。お前は狂気したろうな。だが、それでお前が全て満たされていたかは怪しい。なぜなら、お前にとってベアトリーチェは生まれ変わりであって、当の本人にとってはそうではなかったから。
なぜそのようなことがわかるのか。
本人は自分がベアトリーチェと呼ばれることに違和感を拭えずにいた。人は生まれながらに与えられた自分の名前に違和感を覚えることはない。だが彼女は覚えた。それはベアトリーチェというのは自分のものではないことを彼女が自覚していたに他ならない。
In Guadorian, she asked both Kinzo and Rosa about who she was.
わらわは何者なのか。わらわのことをベアトリーチェという。それは確かにそなたの言うように偉大な魔女の名前らしい。しかしそれはわらわではないのだ。わらわには魔法など何も使えぬ。
I'm noticing she's using the word warawa a lot.
わらわはその魔女の魂をこの身に封じられているだけなのだ。
So she can't use magic just like Chick
い
Beatrice.
ずれ戻ったのだ。あれは紛れもなくベアトリーチェの生まれ変わり。記憶は戻りつつあった。我が魔術の儀式によってわずかずつではあるが記憶を取り戻しつつあった。
当主様。
驚くことじゃねえ。これまでのゲームの情報を並べりゃ導かれる。そのままの答えだ。上層のベアトリーチェはそれを指して死んで逃れた魔女の魂を逃さず肉の体に捕らえて閉じ込めたと。
Yes, I remember that.
そして記憶も力も封じられていると例えた。その解釈もこの推理なら筋が通る。
ウィラードさん、親方様は偉大なる魔法の儀式により亡きベアトリーチェ様の生まれ変わりの赤子を得たのでございます。それを否定することはできません。
コウノトリを否定はしねえ。そして金蔵がどれだけベアトリーチェという女を深く愛していたか、忘れがたみにどういう愛情を注ぐかは人の感覚だ。育つほどに似ていくその姿に金蔵が愛ゆえに特別な感情を持ったとしても、俺はそれを人間らしい感情だと思うぜ。
Wow, bitch.
我が愛が理解できるというのか。
He really has been heartbroken this entire time. Didn't they mention that in episode 1
理解する資格は
or 2?
否定する資格もね。
ベアトリーチェ、
Wow, bitch.
私を許してくれ。
Kinzo sobbed quietly for a while, wiping away his tears. Because of love, he believed she was Beatrice reborn, and raised her that way. However, somewhere in his heart, he might have felt pangs of conscience, telling him that he might be forcing his emotions on someone who wasn't really Beatrice. Damn. Then the Beatrice of Guadorian had an unexpected guest, Rosa. Wow, bitch. Unable to believe that she was the Beatrice that Kinzo desired? And suffering from her inability to understand who she was, she expressed a desire to escape to the outside world. I feel so bad for her because being locked up there on her, pretty much by herself, not being able to socialize, being forced and stuck in that fucking mansion. Wow, that is so sad, tragic. Then she fell from the cliff and died. As soon as she, damn, oh. I always did feel so bad for her.
現女は表に出せぬその死を内々で処理した。
Yes, and that's just as sad. Even in death, no one could know about her. It's like she wasn't even born. It's like she was never even alive.
そう仕切ったのは死者のためにやるんじゃない。生きてる人間が死んだ人間への未練を断ち切るために行うものだ。それができなかった。だからただれたんだ。
ベアトリーチェ。
Oh my god. I can feel the pain, the anguish,
おじい様。
the sadness.
あんたは愛人の娘を、いや、ベアトリーチェを2度失った。その悲しみを表に出すことができず、胸の奥に押し込み、それがやがてただれて狂気に変わった。それが晩年まで異常なまでのオカルト趣味に駆り立てる。
ベアトリーチェ、ベアトリーチェ。なぜに二度までも私の前から去るのか。
I'm feeling the emotion. I'm getting a little sad myself. The pain. I'm feeling it. You hear him scream. And it's also this stupid song. It's always these damn songs that get to me.
私は二度も抱きしめながら、なぜに二度も死すのか。
He managed to get to her the second time too?
それほどまでに私を。
By now, Kinzo wasn't even trying to suppress his sobs. Sometimes, he scratched at his head in anguish. Other times, he faced the heavens like an opera singer. Kinzo yelled over and over, repeating Beatrice's name. Oh, that is just so painful. That really is. At that moment, there was a quiet sound of a door closing. When they turned around, she was already there. Kumasawa. Kumasawa had appeared.
そこまでをご存知でしたら、もうすべてをお話ししてもよろしいのでは
About what? About what? Oh, I have to. I swear, if she doesn't, okay, tell the rest of what?
そこまでを知るなら、
No,
これ以上何も語ることなどないと思う。
Genji, you better open your fucking mouth and tell me what you're talking about.
いいえ、語るべきでございま
Yes,
す。
please, Kumasawa,
私は
please.
女として、クワドリアンのベアトリーチェ様のお心を誰かに伝えねばと思ってまいりました。そして、その資格を持つ人間が現れました。今こそ、すべてを包み隠さずお話しすべき時かと存じます。
Please, don't hold back, not even one. No, don't hold nothing
熊沢
back.
さんは知っているのですか？ベアトリーチェのこと。
知ってるだろ。第4のゲームの時、連絡船の船長は熊沢がクワドリアンに出入りしていたことを証言している。おそらく熊沢は屋敷とクワドリアンの双方で。
I feel bad for completely forgetting that. The boat captain did say that? I know he said something about Genji, but I forgot about Kumasawa.
育児経験の豊富な熊沢はさぞ重宝されただろう。
さようでございます。乳母であったと おっしゃっていただいてもよろしいかと思います。
Wet nurse, what is that?
そんな、信じられない。本当にウィルさんの話は本当なんですか？
はい、事実でございます。ベアトリーチェ様のために島の反対側に建てられた秘密の屋敷、クワドリアンの存在は真実でございます。
金蔵が正妻といつ結婚したかは知らねえが、当時すでに莫大な財産を持ち、六軒島を丸ごと買い取った金蔵は交わらぬ2つの屋敷を建てて、そこに2つの生活を両立させた。
Kinzo's children had also... Fuck me, I skipped it. Kinzo's children had also been aware of Kinzo's clandestine eccentricities at the time. It probably hadn't been easy to set up two lives. Moreover, Kinzo's wife had been suspicious and had sniffed around all the time.
親方様はお時間の許す限りクワドリアンへ通われました。時にはご出張と偽られ、何日も滞在され、
Wow,
ベア
okay.
トリーチェ様との生活を大切になさいました。それは親子としての関係だけでなく、亡きベアトリーチェ様への深い愛を垣間見れる心温まるものでございましたとも。
それは亡きベアトリーチェの代用品として扱ったこともあったと言っているようにも聞こえるな。
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
おや、そう聞こえたなら申し訳ございません。
Oh, okay.
ベアトリーチェ様は父からの愛は一心に受けられていたでしょう。しかし時にご自身に理解できぬ愛を強いられていたことは否定できません。
Okay, Kinzo's starting to sound a little bit too obsessed. They're making it sound a little... You know the word I'm trying to say. Kumasawa's tone made it sound as though she was scolding Kinzo. As a mother who had raised many kids, Kumasawa had probably spotted that Kinzo's love was often of a mistaken sort. However, the more the girl grew to look like her mother, the more distorted and twisted Kinzo's heart became. Because of his deep love, it grew very, very twisted. Okay, I don't know if I should feel as bad now.
なじれ我が友よ、分かっておる。我が愛は永遠に不滅。なれどそれが間違った相手に注がれたことがあったの。私は認めねばならぬ。
おじい様、そんな、まさか。
リオン様、世の中のすべての人間には必ず何かの縁がございます。身に覚えがなくと必ず何かの縁がございます。その縁が人に絡みつき引き寄せるのでございます。
そんな、おじい様。
Just as Kinzo had done, Leon also wiped away tears and stared down at the floor. Apparently, the truth had been too much of a shock for the young successor to handle. Are they insinuating that he did something incestuous?
親方様、もう語る時ではございませんか。
Because that's what I think they're trying to say, but maybe not.
そうか、その時が来たか、我が友よ。
あんたが語らなきゃ何も真実は明らかにならない。
親方
And
様、
the truth must come clear.
もはや知る権利と資格があるかと思います。
分かっている。今日という私の気まぐれな葬儀に天のベアトリーチェが贖罪の機会を与えたのだろう。今日まで話さなかったことを許せ。
What the fuck is he gonna say? After taking a deep breath, Kinzo finally lowered the hands that had been covering his face and looked at Will and Leon with those red eyes.
おじい様。
イオンも聞き客人ミラードと言ったか。この私が自らの口より真実を話せるうちに、お前はきっとベアトリーチェより使わされた天の使いに違いない。感謝する。
その機会を設けたのはベアトリーチェじゃない。どこぞの魔女だ。どっちも魔女には違いない。
お前が誰でもよい。私に機会を与えた。それで十分。感謝するぞ、ミラードとやら。
Kinzo slowly stood up and held out his right hands. He was offering to shake hands. It must have been Kinzo's way of expressing his gratitude. Will would respond. Then the two hands gripped each other tightly in silence. When they did, a bright light poured out from the gap between the two hands. Oh yes, because Will has like that thing, that glass thing in his hand that he showed Shannon last video. Will felt as though something the size of a grain had burned itself into his palm. It was the power that Burn Castell had given him. The light grew brighter and brighter. However, it seemed that Kinzo and the others could not see it. What? Really?
今こそ語る。私がベアトリーチェ。
Oh shit! Oh shit!
ベアトリーチェ・カスティリオーニに出会ったのは終戦間際。
Holy shit! My mouth is wide open. Beatrice Castiglione. What last name is that? Is that? I'm gonna sound stupid, but that's obviously is that like a European last name? If I would just shut up and click, I would find out. Yeah, she came from across the sea. Right after World War II? He said after the war. Holy motherfucking shit. Who's that? Wait, is that Kinzo? Holy shit, for some reason he looks just like Battler. Well, something about him looks just like him.
お前は金蔵なのか?
His hair's always been white?
昔のおじい様です。写真で見たことがあります。
No fucking way! Holy shit! Dude, I'm sick. That instantly took my sickness away.
感激者の力だ。無理に理解するな。
頭痛にならん？
分かってきた。
At one time, Genji told Battler that he looked like Kinzo in his youth. That's what I'm fucking saying. He looks just like him. Sure enough, though the young Kinzo wasn't exactly the same as Battler, they looked very similar. I think it's the eyes. It's definitely the eyes.
改めて名乗ろう。私が後宮金蔵である。
Holy fuck. Oh, I'm so shit. Oh, this is peak. This is even the voices seem to resemble Battler somehow. Maybe they had the voice, you know, the voice actor put a little bit of emphasis. Whatever. Clearly, Battler had inherited Kinzo's blood more thickly than any other.
私は後宮家など継ぎたくはなかった。私が当主に選ばれたのは運命のいたずらに過ぎぬのだ。
He does look just like
関東
him.
大震災、主だった者が死に絶え、分家筋のお前が抜擢された。
そうです。おじい様は若くとも聡明な方で、当主にふさわしい貫禄を若くしてお持ちの方でした。
とんでもない。欲深な長老たちは互いの利益ばかりを主張し合い、新しい当主を選び出すことさえできなかった。まるで沈みゆく船で新しき船長は誰かと議論するような愚かさ。
だからこそ本家の誰ともしがらみのないお前が突然に抜擢を受けた。
全てはこの足の指のせいだ。
Oh yes, he has polydactyly.
足の指が一本ずつ足りなかったなら、我が人生は全く異なるものになっていたであろう。
Well, I mean, in a way they chose correctly, since UMS saw this fortune. In the Ushinomiya family, polydactyly was seen as a sign of good fortune. This was because it was a common factor among many of the greats in the family's history.
くだらぬ話よ。長老どもは自分たちの誰も得をしない馬の骨であれば誰でもよかった。
たまたま分家筋に両足の指が6本ある者がいると耳に入った。それでいいと決まったわけ。
そういうことだ。長老ども自分たちの操り人形になるならどこの青にさえでもよかった。むしろ帝王学に無知な人間ほど好ましい。
おじいさま。
リオ、お前は違う。お前は我が全てを受け継ぐ者だ。お前が生を受けた日よりそれは運命づけられていた。だからこそお前に銀の指輪を与え厳しく育ててきた。
What's up with this silver ring shit?
そなたは私とは違う。
I'm guessing it's just a temporary thing until he inherits the gold.
誰にも恥じることのない立派な当主跡継ぎであるぞ。
So everyone knows that hey, he's the second one. As soon as this motherfucker croaks or this bitch gets what is it, 18 or 20? That silver is gonna turn to gold.
気楽なものじゃねえだろうな。
As he pondered about where to begin, Kinzo laughed bitterly. I'm starting to think, maybe one of the reasons he loves Beatrice so fiercely is because I imagine the stress would be incredible that he went through, right? And meeting this Beatrice, whatever the fuck it was, maybe she helped him de-stress. She was the light at the end of the tunnel. Not the light at the end of the tunnel, but she was his shining light. And after everything they went through, for him to just see her leave, it would probably bring back nothing but painful memories, no matter where he started from.
あれはあまりに長い灰色の日々であった。それは私には岩に蒸す苔のような気の遠くなるほど長い死んだ時間。
I became the rope in the tug of war between the elders, who thought of nothing but their own profit, and I probably could have snapped at any moment. However, people are far more resilient than one would think. Though I spent so many days like a dead man, I was not killed, so I would have to search for death on my own. The next thing I knew, I had reached the age where I could no longer refer to myself as young without drawing laughter from those who were. They were long, dreary, gray days without any substance, and they lasted for a full 20 years. In 20 years, a person can be born, find a purpose, and even become their own man with their own place in the world. In short, if one truly becomes a human only when they have become a working adult, then I spent an amount of time long enough to create a human, doing nothing except playing the part of puppet to those greedy old men. Ironically, though that time aged my body, it did not age my mind. In my heart, I was still young, and I looked back fondly on the fulfilling days before I was summoned to Odawara. Only my body continued to age, and at some point, the gulf between the two had widened to the point that it was hard to comprehend. So I could hardly believe that the worn-out man in the mirror was really me. No, it really wasn't me. I was the head of the Ushiromiya family in name only. I had no rights, no autonomy. There was no need for me to do anything other than what was asked of me. I was just a doll sitting there on the shelf, gathering dust. I remember nothing but lazily flipping through Western books I liked, locking myself in my own world, doing nothing but playing with roses and drinking terrible drinks. And it lasted a full 20 years. Before I knew it, I had a stranger for a wife. It wasn't any wife I had chosen. She was someone that the elders had chosen and forced on me for their own reasons, the daughter of some noble family or something. But that hardly mattered to me. I did not love my wife, but neither did I dislike her. I just didn't care. I fathered a few children, but that wasn't out of love for my wife. They were just born before I knew it. That's all there was to it. None of it mattered. No, that's not quite right. Everything was decided by someone other than me, and I simply obeyed. That was the job of the Ushiromiya family head. Well, that sounds terrible.
このまま自分は静かに殺されるなど。
I
信
can
じられませ
imagine.
ん。強胆なる名君と称えられたおじい様がそのような日々を送っていたなんて。
リオンよ、自ら生きぬ人生ほど希薄で長いものはない。なのにそれはあっという間に過ぎ去るのだ。心せよ。
自ら生きる人生。
生きるってことは意志を持つということだ。殺された日々だったろうよ。
そうだ。私は生きたかった。いや、死にたかった。操り人形はどうすれば死ねる。
糸を断ち切ることです。
そうだ。
And is that why he moved to
それ
Rokkenjima?
が死ぬことであり、生きることであり、解放だ。
Wow, we're learning so much about it. Before I realized it, the world had grown troubled. World War II. The Pacific War. Japan had extended their war fronts too far to the east and west, and the tide of war was changing. Thanks to the influence of the elders, I was able to avoid conscription. Of course, this was not out of compassion for me. It was because I was their precious puppet. So the war never really felt that close to me. However, when I personally decided to abandon their protection, it was very easy. At that time, the Ushiromiya family had almost completely collapsed. And since the elders had apparently pilfered enough of the scraps to last them the rest of their lives, they seemed to care little for what I did, now that they no longer had any use for me. So I realized that I had finally found my time to die. One by one, I cut the threads I was hanging from and began to search for a place to end my life.
戦地で死を求めようとしたのか。
同じ死ぬなら誰かの役に立つべきと思った。いや、違うな。私には自らの命を絶つ気力さえなかったんだ。もっともらしく死ねる理由が戦争だったんだ。
おじい様は土木建築の知識がありましたので、海軍設営隊にて施設造成などに従事されたと聞いています。
とんだ誤算よ。何の取り柄もないと言っておけば、すぐにも死ねる最前線へ送られたもの。
最前線に行かずに済んだのか。
幸いと喜ぶ仲間もいたよ。私には逆だった。 戦って死ぬという出来すぎた美酒の焼け酒が欲しかっただけなのだ。忘れられた島の上空を米軍の編隊は横切っていくだけ。彼らは私のために爆弾一つどころか鉛玉の一つさえ恵んではくれなかったので。
おじい様はその日々の中でベアトリーチェにお会いになられたのですか？
そうだ。あれは海からやってきた。
どこで会った？島と言ったが。
ここだよ。この島にやってきたのだ。
What?
お前たちは六軒島で出会っていたというのか。
どういうことですか？おじい様が六軒島を買い取るまでは無人島だったと聞いています。この島に日本軍の基地があったなどとは初耳です。
Well, I mean, all these secret passages underground and shit, I guess it would make sense.
あんなものは基地とは呼ばぬ。ただの岩窟よ。私はその岩窟の番人だったんだ。
The cave at the back of the island? That cave? Holy fuck, we're gonna... 1944? Wait, isn't that right before the end of World War II? Didn't that shit end... Hold on. Didn't that shit end in 45? Yeah, it ended in 45. So 1 year before the end. Due to the honorable defeats at Saipan and Guam, Japan's absolute national defense zone strategy was in shambles. Where had the gallantry of the start of the war... Where had the gallantry of the start of the war gone? The old attackers were now the ones on the defensive. At that time, it was said that the final trump card for the Japanese military were the so-called special attack weapons. It was said that these ultimate weapons were packed with 1.55 tons of explosives and capable of sinking any kind of warship with a single blast. What about U-boats? To strengthen homeland defense, the Navy drafted a plan to build a string of hidden bases from Hachijo-jima to Yokosuka, all to house submarines loaded with special attack weapons. And that's how they hired Kinzo to build shit like that.
しかしそれが六軒島にもあったなんて。
どこの間抜けがこんな何もない島に作ろうと言い出したやら。一苦情の都合。バカバカしい。お上の考えることなどわからぬし、私にとってもどうでもいいことだ。
These truly were ultimate weapons, able to take down large warships in a single strike. By the way, just as he was talking, I noticed that he has like a fang, like they do in anime usually, Kinzo. It was hoped that the presence of submarines capable of loading these weapons in the waters just off of Japan would allow for a powerful sea ambush as a final line of defense. So, to aid in the establishment of a base with absolute secrecy, the uninhabited island, Rokkenjima, was raised as a possible candidate. An investigation of the island resulted in the discovery of a large cave in the cliffs, and this was apparently deemed to be a suitable location for a submarine base.
お前はその基地の建設に関わったわけか。
建設？岩窟を掘り広げただけを建設と呼ぶならな。しかもその上、基地は未完成のまま放置されたのだから。
どうしてです？
当時の日本にそいつを詰めるほどの大型潜水艦はもう残っていなかったのよ。滑稽な話だ。潜水艦もないのに潜水艦基地など今さら必要。役人の無意味な箱物作りは今も昔も変わらぬが。
The base on Hachijojima was actually outfitted with those weapons and became a base for direct attacks. But Rokkenjima was never supplied with any. Not only that, they cancelled the construction work entirely, leaving only a crew of minimal size stationed on the islands. waiting for orders from above that never came. Could it be the fact that it was a hidden base sealed our fate? The higher-ups had already completely forgotten about this useless and pointless cavern. We were nothing more than guards for a mere cave. We spent our days farming, fishing, and playing with the dirt, all while gazing up at the American formations flying past. Some of our group were relieved at the prospect of the war ending before anyone remembered we were here, and before any of us had to face a real battle. Of course, it was the opposite for me. Fuck. I hoped beyond hope for the American troops to advance and kill me as soon as possible. And then, one of those hollow days. Let us go back there now. Back to the turning point in my life and my fates. When Uchiramiya Kinzo finally became alive.
貴様たるんでいるぞ。決戦は間近というのに、そのへっぴり腰は何か。
Stars seemed to spin around inside my head. I could just lie down on the floor, but that only made him more angry. I have no intention of being obedient. Still, it'd be stupid to get myself punched up for no reason, so I got up and stood at attention. The fighting's close, is it? You really think the American troops are likely to show up on this forgotten island? Then let them come right now. That's what I've been waiting for all this time.
その腐った目つきは何か。貴様、そんなに死にたくない。そんなに米兵が恐ろしいか。そんな気合では打ち取れんぞ。
They hit me again. Could you please quit your whining already? Filthy cowards. They give themselves over to this inexplicable anger because it's the only way to distract themselves from their own fear. Heart and spirit aren't any use when the battle becomes hopeless. When trapped by an insurmountable hopelessness, humans rely on several other emotions to escape their fear. These young, inexperienced soldiers found anger to be a very convenient emotion to fall back upon. Right. They did drills by shouting in loud voices and swinging their bamboo spears around. Bamboo spears? What? You ain't gonna kill nobody with that shit. Drinking the wine called anger was simply what they needed to do to numb their fear. The more one drinks wine, the more one needs to drink to get drunk. Their useless anger continued to pile up day after day without pause. As for me, I did not fear death, so I had no need of the wine called anger. This made the cowardice all the more apparent to me.
その目つきだ。後ろ宮、貴様の魂は腐りきっておるわ。魚だ。貴様の目は死んだ魚の目だ。
What type of fish? A sweet fish, perhaps? Ayu? However, it went both ways. Just as I was able to spot their cowardice, they were able to pick up on my lethargy. Wow.
後ろには金蔵はいるか。注意殿がお呼びだ。立て。もたもたするな。駆け足。
First Lieutenant Yamamoto was the commanding officer in charge of the Rokkenjima garrison. Wow, we're back here where the gold is. He was just another filthy coward trying to forget his fear with violence, and would reprimand his subordinates for slacking off at the drop of a hat. The stories of his lives he'd spout off were in a good mood. When in a good mood, were all about how much of a thug he had been, ignoring the rules of society, and on about how so-and-so was a prick, so he taught them a lesson, or how everyone was so scared of him that he got special treatment. This is where Kraus beat the fuck up out of a goat. He kept on talking about what a vile human he was, as though it was a badge of honor. Normally, had nothing to do with this disagreeable lieutenant. He would always hang around with his non-commissioned subordinates. So as long as I treated him with a snappy salute, I could more or less ignore him for the time being. Now that the construction project on this island had been suspended indefinitely, There was no longer any use for an engineer like me. So why did the lieutenant ask for me specifically? At that moment, I couldn't think of anything.
後宮、貴様は外国語が堪能であると聞いたが事実であるか？
英語と中国語を話せるであります。注意だ。
Wow, English and Chinese? The lieutenant liked to brag about his education in front of the non-commissioned officer. I believe that's called Mandarin, standard Mandarin. There's like 2 major languages over there. The lieutenant brag about his education in front of the non-commissioned officers, but he held a bit of a grudge against me for being even more highly educated than him. Sounds like a loser. He also felt uncomfortable about having me as a subordinate because he was younger than me. So I was definitely not the kind of person he could hit it off with. Just the fact that I knew several languages must have hurt his pride.
ならばイタリア語はどうか？
わかりません。
では貴様にイタリア人との通訳は務まらんというわけか。
Yeah, wasn't Italy like a big, an ally of the Japanese?
英語を喋れる者がいれば可能と思います。
なるほど、確かに。貴様外国人と英語で話した経験はあるのか？
あります。
Why on earth would he need an interpreter in a cave on an uninhabited island that even our superiors have forgotten? Unless it's Beatrice. Wait, Italian? Didn't I was about to say, her last name sounded Italian, even though I don't really know anything about that place in the world. His question made it clear that someone who would need an interpreter would be visiting Rokkenjima.
よし、後ろ宮、貴様を俺の通訳に命ずる。
Okay. That evening, I found out exactly what he was talking about. Yes, this is the cave at the back of the island. So that's where the gold is. Holy shit, wait a minute. The pointless cavern submarine, docked that had never been used, was now being approached slowly by a submarine of the Italian Navy. Of course, I knew that the Italians had been our allies. Yes, I was right. However, this was the first time I had seen anything from their military with my own eyes.
どうしてイタリア軍が？確か1943年にイタリアは降伏しているはずです。これはどういうことでしょう？
降伏したのはイタリア王国だ。だが、それを受け入れない者たちは親独政権 RSI を樹立させ、戦争を続けたと。
RSI？
イタリア社会共和国、別のサロ共和国。
Oh, so that's why he brought that up.
何も知らぬ者は、イタリアは枢軸国の中で1943年にそれは間違いだ。イタリア社会共和国軍は開戦から1945年4月29日まで勇敢に戦った。ベルリン降伏はその3日後だ。腰抜けどころか大健闘だ。しかし RSI 海軍が日本まで航行できるような潜水艦を持っていたという驚きだ。
そうでなくてもはるばる日本までやってきたこと自体が驚きです。彼らはなぜ日本に？
And not just that, wouldn't they go to a place a little bit more important than Rokkenjima?
ロッケン島に。
The submarine was both weather-worn and massive. This dock had never been used by one of our own country's submarines. I doubt anyone here imagined that it would end up welcoming in one from a far-off nation, across the world. All of the guards of Rokkenjima, of which there were only about 30, stood at attention of the submarine dock, as the submarine docked.
イタリア軍だって初めて見たぞ。なんでも事故と失敗で航行不能になったんだと。換気装置がやられて塩素ガスが換気できなくなった。注意殿の話によると何か重要なものを運んでるって話だ。暗号変換器が新型エンジンだから設計図じゃん。俺は積み運より上層部の我がここを覚えててくれたことの方が驚きだ。
後ろ宮、早く来い。貴様は通訳だろうが。
は
What a bully. On top of the hatch was a young Italian saluting us. Normally, this should have been the job of a commissioned officer, but his clothes looked just like those of a sailor. And it really didn't look like he had the dignity and composure of a ship's captain. That probably meant that all of the commissioned officers in charge had died in the accident that had befallen this sub. Crew members crawled out of the hatch one by one, but they all looked pale and entirely worn out. I wasn't sure how long ago the accident had happened, but being crammed together in a tiny sub filled with chlorine gas for any amount of time can't be good for your health. It'll kill you. Adding to the problem of the broken ventilation system was the fact that they couldn't afford to travel about carelessly on the surface of the waters around Japan right now. They had essentially traveled here inside a can of poison gas. Almost all of them were unable to walk without leaning on someone else. It looked like a bunch of people staggering out of a hospital boat.
後ろ宮、艦長は誰か聞け。私がこの島の指揮官であることを説明せよ。
ようこそ日本へ。英語がわかるの？
Damn it, I really wanted to hear him speak English. The crew members seemed to understand that I was speaking English, but it looked as though none of them could speak it. Eventually, someone who seemed to be dressed as an officer saluted.
ようこそ日本へ。
Okay, I'll speak for him. Welcome to Japan.
艦長でありますか？
Are you the captain?
I cannot speak English.
That sucks.
Please, wait.
Okay. The officer answered in slow, laborious English. After asking us to wait, he shouted something to his subordinates in rapid Italian. It looked as though he was telling them to get someone among them who could speak English.
後ろ宮、なんと言っている。
They said to chill the fuck
何
out.
と言っています。
Yeah, they asked us to calm the fuck down. They're gonna get someone to speak. At that moment, I heard a high-pitched cough. It wasn't a man's cough. I fucking knew it. The one who can speak English is Beatrice. It was a woman's. So this...
私英語わかるわ。
Oh shit. Okay, she's not a witch though. She's from... As she came down from the hatch, a woman with beautiful golden hair said this in English. In this filthy cavern, the appearance of one as beautiful as she seemed like an angel descending upon us. Holy shit, so this is Beatrice. This is how they met? So she's not even from... Okay, I mean, it was obvious that she wasn't from here, right? She don't look like, I guess, like a Japanese person?
ようこそ日本へ。艦長はいますか？
艦長は死んだわ。士官はあそこの彼だけよ。
お悔やみ申し上げます。何かお手伝いはできますか？
新鮮な空気と水が欲しいわ。まだ息のある人間もいる。休ませる場所が欲しいわ。
協力しましょう。他に英語のわかる人間はいますか？
Fuck, so this is how he fucking met Beatrice. She's Italian?
いたけどみんな死んだわ。私だけよ。
But she's human.
後ろ宮、女は何を言っている。艦長は誰だ。さっきの男なのか。その女は何者なのか。早く通訳しろ。
Right. The lieutenant wouldn't shut up. Well, I mean, he don't know what the fuck's going on. He must have been surprised to see such a beautiful woman appear from the submarine. More than a little annoyed to see all of her attention focused on me alone. Right, I'm saying maybe he's jealous. Maybe he wants her. She's beautiful. It was a mark of how divinely beautiful she was.
注意殿。彼女だけが英語をわかるようです。彼女は彼らの通訳になります。艦長は死亡。代表者は先ほどの士官のようです。
うるさくあなたに叫んでいる男は何者？まさかあなたの上司なの？
不幸なことに、私が美しいお嬢さんを独り占めしているのが気に入らないんでしょう。
Oh, look at you, so smooth with it.
東洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思わなかったわ。綺麗な英語ね。あなたは育ちが良さそうだわ。怒鳴ってるみっともない男とは大違い。あなたがここの将校だったらよかったのに。
おや、 私も西洋人にお世辞をもらえるとは思いませんでした。
Really?
あなた面白い人だわ。名前は？
後宮金蔵です。よろしければお嬢さんの名前を。
Oh shit. Okay, okay. Hit me with
ベ
it.
アトリーチェ・カスティリオーニ。
ようこそベアトリーチェ日本へ。
Damn. So this is how they fucking met. That was when I first met Beatrice, the woman who would capture my heart for the rest of my life. How did she die though?
ベアトリーチェとはイタリア人だったのですか？
I never would have expected that.
彼女は RSI 交換の娘だ。
Oh, okay.
どうやら彼女の父親こそが一番の罪人だったらしい。
Oh, but he died.
残念ながらロッケン島にたどり着いた時にはもう死んでいた。
その交換がなぜ日本に？スエズ運河からインド洋を越えてはるばる日本まで来たというのか。
確かに同盟国としてはドイツの方がはるかに近いはず。なぜわざわざ日本までやってきたのでしょう？
途方もない規模の遠大な作戦か何かだったのかもしれない。その全容はわからない。その潜水艦がただならぬ任務を帯びていたらしいことは後に理解することとなる。
They said that there had been about 60 of them at the time of their departure. However, only about 10 of them, including Beatrice, had survived. Their submarine had apparently hit a mine or something in the nearby waters and sustained a great deal of damage. They told us that it had flooded rapidly with water, which had taken out the batteries and released a large amount of chlorine gas. Damn, okay. Their sub had become completely incapable of continuing further. Nothing but a massive lump of metal floating in the dock. Since the sub seemed to be carrying something of immense value, the higher-ups ordered us to investigate. Damn, and is this where Beatrice died? Well, her daughter, I guess? Here, where he first met Beatrice Castellgoni, whatever, the original one, the first one? After questioning the Italians, with Beatrice and me acting as double interpreters, we concluded that this thing of immense value must have been her father himself. Apparently, Beatrice's father was extremely high up in the RSI hierarchy, and it was thought that he might have worked alongside the Italian Prime Minister himself. Though their massive voyage had apparently been part of some top-secret mission, now that the man himself and all of the commissioned officers had died, their reason for coming to Japan remained a mystery. Damn, so they'll never know. They kept that locked up in to the grave. They took it to the grave. And since the higher-ups were telling us to investigate, that meant that even they didn't know what it was. I'm imagining we're probably gonna know. We're probably gonna figure that out. Their ship had broken down. Their mission was unknown, and the high official they had been carrying was dead. Even the Japanese government didn't know why they were here. The Italians' great and perilous voyage had come to a meaningless and utterly fruitless end.
Good. 日本の潮風はてっきり醤油の匂いがすると思ってたわ。
お互い様です。
Really?
イタリア人の髪はパスタでできてるって思ってました。
あら、そうよ。アルデンテに仕上げるには茹で加減が難しいの。だから日本人はみんなスパゲティ迷路だわ。
よくご存知で。日本人はシャンプーの代わりに。
Fuck! Hold on. Sorry. Squid ink instead of shampoo.
金蔵はすごいわ。何でも知っているのね。イタリアに来たことがあるの？
ありません。しかし本はいろいろと読みました。
東洋人もイタリアの方を？へえ。例えばどんな？
ニッコロ・マキャベッリ、ダンテ・アリギエーリ。だからあなたが 永遠の淑女であることも存じていますよ。
What?
おお、なんてこと。金蔵はとんでもない勉強家だわ。あなたはひょっとして日本では高貴な家の出身なのでは？
What? The Eternal Lady?
さあどうでしょう。
あなたは他の野蛮そうな日本人とはまるで違うわ。私にはわかるの。あなたはきっと高貴な家の人間だわ。後ろ宮家は日本の貴族の家柄なの？
とんでもない。宝石で一山当てただけでもただの成金の一族です。私が勉強していたのは高貴なるものとしてのたしなみではなく、何をすることも許されなかったら本を読むかバラをいじるか酒に溺れるかしかやることがなかったからですよ。
Beatrice hadn't asked that question out of malice. It had just been a curious question asked to a friend from a faraway country. However, Beatrice was from a noble family herself, so she could tell. She could see the faint gloomy look on Kinzo's face.
許して金蔵。あなたのような高貴な人はどうしてこんなおかしなところで軽率の身分に甘んじているのか、深く考えなかったわ。
私の一族などどうでもいいことです。死ねば後ろ宮などという姓は何の意味もない。そしてそれこそがようやく私を解き放ってくれるのです。
金蔵は死にたくて軍隊に？そんなのダメ。家族が悲しむわ。
家族など私には誰も。
I have a wife for the sake of public appearances and children. However, I've never wanted any of them. Everything is a fleeting daydream created by selfish, greedy old men. So, at least being stuck on this island, I can forget about all of that and find some peace. Peace? But haven't I spent each and every day complaining that I wasn't sent to the front and haven't managed to die yet?
私にあなたの苦しみはわからないけれど、私の心ない言葉が傷つけてしまったことはわかるわ。許して金蔵。
Forgive me, Kinzo. Oh, those words. I think they set me free. All of the Japanese people call me Ushiromiya. Every time I hear it, it's a constant reminder that I'm the property of the Ushiromiya family. But she is different. She calls me Kinzo, not Ushiromiya. So maybe, just for the time I chat with her like this, I can forget that cursed family.
金蔵。
I hadn't meant to make Beatrice feel guilty, but she seemed certain that her thoughtless words had hurt me. Dude, there is so much going on. Holy shit. So this is how he fucking met her. I have I have a couple theories going on in my fucking head.
あなたが私を金蔵と呼んでくれるから、私はやっと自分を取り戻すことができる。私はようやく本当の意味で私を見てくれる人に出会えた気がします。
金蔵、あなたはとても遠い異国で出会った外国人だけれど、あなたの心はとても繊細で美しい。私たちはきっと近所に住んでいたならとても当たり前な友人になっていたわ。私も嬉しいのよ。あなたは私のことをベアトリーチェと呼ぶ。カスティリオーニのご令嬢とは呼ばないわ。
Wow, so she has the same problem. So they bonded through their shared experience of being part of a family bigger than them that I guess they feel trapped. They feel like they're being choked. They feel like they can't escape this family and through their shared dissatisfaction, I guess? Disappointment, like unsatisfaction? Whatever the fuck. They managed through bond through something like that. And I guess that bond grew more and more. We were both in the same... Yes, there it is, the same position. Her Castiglione family must have been a rigid place as well. You know what's funny? Never mind. Though we came from different countries, we had finally found something we could truly understand about each other.
金蔵は親しい者にはなんて名前で？
いえ、普通に金蔵と呼ばれていました。
じゃあ、あなたは私をベアトリーチェと呼ぶのを改めるべきだわ。
I swear, she says, call me Beato.
親しい人間は私のことをビーチェと呼んでいた。
Beach.
あなたもそうしてくれると嬉しいわ。
I was gonna say, is it gonna be Beato? No, it's gonna be Beach. Oh, almost sounds like bitch.
わかりました。これからは親しみを込めてビーチェとお呼びを。
Beach.
ダメ。堅苦しい言葉はダメ。だって私たちはもう友人なのだから。
A bright smile stretched across Beatrice's face. Or should I say Beach?
あの美少があれか我が記憶より薄れることはない。
I'm understanding so fucking well. Man, I'm really getting everything exposed.
おじい様はベアトリーチェと出会うことで自分を取り戻されたのですね。
This is more of a confession than fucking last episode, man. What the hell?
平たく言いや浮気だな。
Well, I guess I wouldn't really... Well, cheating in the... I guess in law you would call it cheating, but I mean, he doesn't love
ビル
her.
さんは今後も失言を繰り返されるならお尻をかばわれる癖をつけることをお勧めします。
So she is still pinching his ass. After having his ass pinched once more, Will hopped around in pathetic agony. How many times has he gotten his shit
おじい様にとって
bitch?
ロケン島はベアトリーチェと初めて出会われた特別な場所だったのですね。
私がこの島に来ることがなければ出会うこともなかった奇跡の島なのだ。
And this is why he picked this island to stay here.
その潜水艦基地の名残とやらは今も残っているのか。
クワドリアンの近くに今も残っている。
Close to Guadorian. Okay, so I imagined... Okay, I thought they were a little bit more spread apart. I thought the island... Guadorian, I mean, was northeast of the main mansion, while the cave was north, right at the very end of the island. I guess I'll say at the very, very other end, to where no one would ever be. But it's close to Guadorian, the mansion, Guadorian and the cave. Okay.
外界からは見えぬ入り江の影だ。不吉がって漁師たちも近寄らなかった島だ。私以外に知る者はもはやいるまい。
クワドリアンと屋敷を結ぶ2キロにも及ぶ地下道はその基地の名残なのか。
そうだ。鍾乳洞を改造した広大な地下壕で地下を網羅し、島内各地を要塞化するなどという寝言の残骸だ。私はその地下道を生かし、島の両端に2つの屋敷を作らせたのだ。
Wow, man. It just fell into place for him. It was so...
2つの屋敷、2つの家族、後ろ宮家の屋敷と、後ろ宮家から解放された金蔵の屋敷だった。
Wow. So it just perfectly fell into place for him.
そうだ。私には必要だったのだ。後ろ宮という呪われた生から逃れるもう一つの場所が。
In a way, they mentioned a lot that Kinzo is the ruler of Rokkenjima during the day and Beatrice at night. So in a way you could say that I guess at night he is the true Kinzo and at day he's Ushiromiya Kinzo. There's a duality there. Damn, it really went
しかし
perfectly
同情するよ。
for him.
はるばる日本までやってきて任務を成し遂げられなかったとは気の毒の限りだ。
パパの任務が何だったかよくわからないわ。どこか遠くへ逃げ、大切な日までそれを隠さなければならないと言っていた。
Okay, let me read this again. He said that we needed to run far away to hide it until the time came. Okay, I'm assuming either she leaves or maybe because of the nature of her being part of this very prestige family, right? In the military, right? Obviously, some people would want to kill her family. I'm imagining someone kills her. Maybe someone in the island gets tipped off to who she is, and maybe she has a bounty on her head. I don't know.
わからないわ。それはとても大切なもので、大切な日まで何年も隠しているつもりだったみたい。
Your dad.
いえ、それと一緒に隠れているつもりだったみたい。私に異国の地で長い時間を過ごすことになるかもしれないと謝っていたから。
Okay, so whatever the secret is, it would... Okay.
アンジェロ少尉は積み荷は特になく、君の父上が輸送すべき要人だったと言っていたが。
Maybe it was in his head. That's the cargo. His knowledge.
私でさえ知っていることをいくつも隠してる。ひょっとすると少尉はパパの目的と積み荷を知っているのかも。
Wait a fucking second. It just hit me. It just fucking hit me. It just hit me what they're talking about. What she's talking about. The gold. It just makes too much sense. It's the gold. He said, Beatrice, the witch, granted him 10 tons of gold. It's the gold. That's what she's talking
それが何
about.
だったにせよ、それはイタリア軍の任務さ。俺らには関係ないね。むしろ同盟国なんだ。
Holy shit, fuck that. I gotta go back and read. Hold on, wait. I don't really know what Papa's plan was. He said that we needed to run away far and hide it, the gold, until time came. So that they can store all that money for something. Maybe they wanted to restart the war again. Did they lose? Did the Italians lost, right? There's the Allies and the Axis powers, and I'm pretty sure the Allies were us. Well, at least where I'm from. I'm American. And maybe they wanted to sell it for something. What is it? It is something very important. He planned to hide it for many years until the right moment. It's so obvious that they're talking about the gold. And it's in the submarine, isn't it? He planned for us to remain hidden along with it. That it might be spending a very long time on foreign soil. He said that they have no cargo, but he doesn't trust him, so obviously he wouldn't say it if they have 10 tons of gold. You think they would just open their mouths about something like that? Especially because this is, I forgot, is this right now with Kinzo and Beatrice, is this during, after, or just immediately before the end of World War II? Because, oh fuck.
頼ってくれればいいのに。
金蔵が良い人であることは疑わないわ。少尉にもあなたは信頼できる人間だと伝えてるんだけれど、どうして男というのは異教ではむやみやたらと厳格になるの？
Oh really? You don't know? I'm pretty sure anyone, if they were on foreign soil and can't speak to the people around them, would be a little, uptight.
普段はみんなもっと陽気な人たちばかりなのに。
Well, they're nervous. They're in a foreign land.
ここへ来てからみんな妙に空気が張り詰めているわ。
Okay, I'm pretty sure that is a big hint that something bad is gonna happen. They've been this strange feeling of
少尉
tension.
は部下たち全員に常時銃を手放さないように命じてる。まるでここが敵地かのようだわ。
Isn't that a very funny thing to say? It was true. The Italians were clearly the very opposite of relaxed. The Japanese soldiers, watching this, began to suspect that the Italians didn't really trust them at all.
軍人ならおかしいことじゃないさ。むしろこういう時こそ規律を引き締めて友軍に恥ずかしいところを見せたくないんじゃないか。
就寝時には必ず根津板を立てるし、もう航行できないスクラップ同然の潜水艦に今もあなたたちを近づけないように見張りを立てているわ。
So maybe she doesn't know about the gold. Maybe. Yes, I mean, it's so damn... They can't be any more clear about the gold being in the submarine than... The only way they can be more clear is saying outright, hey, there's gold in the submarine and I'm gonna get,
私はなんだか日本人を露骨に毛嫌いしているように見えて気持ちが悪い。
Well, they fear if this is the end of World War II, then they're probably scared that we're gonna steal it. Or they're gonna steal it. Because, I mean, obviously they lost and they got their entire country fucked up to hell. So obviously they would be in need of a lot of money. True, they had set up a constant sentry by the submarine and had refused to let any of the Japanese soldiers come near. This hadn't made the Japanese particularly happy. However, the submarines are treated as classified in all countries. Oh, okay. Maybe it was just natural for them to stop foreigners from approaching it without reason.
慣れない生活を強いられてみんな気が立ってるんだろう。天候とお上の都合で君たちを本土へ運ぶ船の派遣がまた遅れてる。
Weather? Is there a typhoon going on?
君たちをいつ本土へ送ってあげられるやら。
We had been told that a boat was being sent for them directly from the mainland. Okay. But apparently, thanks to the weather, problems up the command chain, and the recent air raids, there were no ships to spare for a forgotten island like this. Yeah, so they would be in need of a lot of money. They would be in need, it would be a huge help if they just had 10 tons gold worth of money. There might have been some sort of diplomatic problem. After all, their homeland had already surrendered to the Allies. I didn't know the details. The only thing I knew for sure was that they'd been stuck on Rokkenjima for 2 whole weeks, and no one had come to get them. Of course, we had some small boats on Rokkenjima. There was nothing physically stopping us from taking them to a nearby island. Still, Rokkenjima was technically a top-secret base, and contact with the outside world had been strictly forbidden.
仕方がないし、それも悪くないわ。
You know what? I'm starting to think about episode 1 again, and how they were talking about how... Damn, it really is all coming together. I remember they talked about kinzo and... Think about this type of shit about the war and whatever they brought up.
だって船が来てしまったら金蔵とはもう会えなくなってしまうんでしょ。
I'll be honest, at the time I kind of thought that Kinzo profiting off the war or something, maybe he sold a lot of weapons, I don't know. To me, those 2 weeks were the first I'd ever truly lived. The faint 20 years before all seemed to vanish in the sparkle of these 2 weeks. I realized that she would have to leave this place eventually. And yet, this one moment felt so rich and dazzling that I felt myself wishing it could last forever. Then I heard a voice calling for Beatrice in Italian.
少尉だよ。君に用事みたいだ。
またお小言かしら。日本人とあまり親しくするなと最近うるさいのよ。
The ensign approached, saluting Kinzo. I feel like something bad's gonna happen. And after glancing at Beatrice, as though asking her to translate something, he began to speak in Italian. Judging by his tone, it sounded like something serious.
少尉はとても重要な話があるから、あなたたちの指揮官に合わせてほしいと言ってるわ。協力を求めたいと言っている。何のことかわからないわ。
重要な話。わかった。山本中尉を探そう。
Ensign Angelo had two of his subordinates with him and wore a stern expression on his face. They didn't have to say anything for us to realize that this must be something very serious. The winch creaked and the thick chains rang out with a dull clang. Very, very slowly, it was lifted up out of the submarine's cargo hold.
なるほど。イタリア人どもが我々を潜水艦に近づけたがらないわけだ。
I already know what they're talking about. The lieutenant and the others looked up at what the winch was slowly lifting up. All of them were wearing unpleasant forced smiles.
なんてこと。これがパパの運んでいた積み荷だというの。
Oh, really?
すごい。こんなの。
Oh, please confirm to me that I was right. The next picture, yeah, baby, shit. I was fucking right, bitch. It was a mountain of gold ingots. Those carefully piled bars were being slowly lifted out of the cargo hold, one group after another. This gold had been their true cargo. I don't know where they were planning to take it. They might have been trying to sneak it into Japan, one of their allies, or they might have been on their way to hide it into some remote area. Was it some sort of strategy? A conspiracy? Embezzlement? Top secret transportation of wealth? This incomprehensible amount of gold led to all sorts of dark suspicions, but we didn't know anything about the truth. All told, the gold weighed an incredible 10 tons. Yes, that was the only truth we could wrap our minds around at the moment. They had strongly resisted showing this to us. However, the submarine could no longer make sea, and it was apparently continuing to take in water bit by bit. Rokkanjima had been outfitted in an extremely slipshod way, so we had no means of repairing it. Also, while we could unload the sub, there was no way we could lift it up again once it had filled with water and sunk at the bottom. It was clear that unless action was taken, the gold would soon become completely impossible to transport, and so they had made the decision to unload it. Of course, they made no effort to explain the reason for all this gold. They just asked us to help them take it out.
なぜこんな大量の黄金を国外へ。これだけあればイタリアの戦局を変えられたのかもしれない。
戦局を変えるのは武器。でも戦後何の役にも立たない。確かに他にも戦局を変えはするでしょう。でも戦後にもその価値が変わる。
There was no longer any way to change the course of this war. The Axis powers would probably all surrender, leading to an Allied victory. Anyone could tell this simply by looking at the American planes flying across the sky, day after day. However, gold would still be valuable after the war was over. Everyone stared upwards, dumbfounded, as the winch slowly lifted the dully sparkling gold. I was so fucking right. I knew it was gold! Wow, we are going to learn every fucking thing.
注意。
I can't stop. I gotta keep going. Hold on, give me a second. I am so goddamn invested, bitch. We are learning so damn much. I might finish the entire fucking shit. No, I'm not. We have so much to get to, but I want to look really quickly at this. I thought this guy was going to be a complete dick, but he's actually pretty cool, and I'm looking at him. He was an ace inquisitor in his youth, and was feared for being both ruthless and merciless in his work. However, at some point, there was a change in his work attitude, and his previous flashy escapades became a thing of the past. So he was a flashy guy before. His current style is often fickle, alternating between laziness and obsessive bursts of energy regarding mere trifles. By now, everyone has given up trying to understand him. He has already submitted his resignation and had it accepted. Only a few days remain before he will lose the name of Right. So Right is a title, just like Beatrice. She inherited the black blood of Kinzo. I guess it would make sense, right? Because just like Kinzo and him being obsessed with the occult to bring back Beatrice, who died at some point, she is obsessed with the occult to bring back her mother and to get away to bring back her mother, as in she doesn't want the black witch or whatever mean witch. I forgot how she put it. That Rosa can be. So they both are looking for something. There she is. She's really cute.
イタリア人たちはこの黄金のことを本土へ報告しないことを望んでいます。
我が国に横領されたくないからであろうな。
Well, yeah, I would have assumed that.
彼は何と？
日本が黄金を横領するのを恐れているから報告されたくないのだろうと言っている。
少尉はむしろイタリア本国に知られることを恐れているわ。私たちにとって今の祖国は連合国の傀儡政権。彼らに知られれば黄金は返還することになる。しかしそれは私たちの敵に黄金を渡すようなもの。
They had come all this way to make sure that the gold didn't fall into enemy hands. They needed to hide this gold from the puppet government until their homeland could be truly restored.
後ろ宮、イタリア人たちに提案せよ。我々は協力を申し出たいとな。
協力とは？
イタリア人たちの言い分はこうであろう。彼らはその黄金を祖国に知られることなく隠したいわけだ。しかしこの島から運び出そうとすれば輸送船を手配せねばならなくなる。そうすれば本土に知られ、さらにはイタリア本国にも知られることとなる。
そうなります。つまりあの黄金はもう六軒島からは運び出せない。
So it is trapped here. Their mission must have been to hide the gold in absolute secrecy until the day of their homeland's restoration. Later on, several plausible rumors would circulate about how Germany also moved much of its secret wealth to certain hidden areas in South America just prior to its surrender. Yes, I've heard of this. There's actually a big theory that Hitler went to Argentina because a lot of high-ranking Nazis went to Argentina because the Argentinians sympathized with Germany for some fucking reason, even though they were in South America. It was a very natural conclusion to reach. That submarine was their only method of transporting the gold in secrecy, and it became completely useless. They can't fully stop the water from seeping in, and it'll probably sink completely before much longer. There's no longer any way for them to transport the gold in secrecy. In other words, their mission had ended in failure here in the Far East. Just how is Lieutenant Yamamoto proposing that we assist them?
この六軒島基地は誰も知らぬ秘密基地だ。近隣の島民たちはこの島を不吉な無人島と信じて近寄りもしない。言っている意味がわかるか、後ろ宮。
彼は何と？
前にも話した通り、この六軒島基地は誰にも知られていない。見ての通り、 戦略価値は何もなく、上層部にもすでに忘れられてる。注意はこの島に黄金を隠してはどうかと提案したいみたいだ。
Beatrice quickly translated this and told Ensign or whatever, Angelo. The ensign began discussing rapidly with his subordinates. They didn't look happy. Japan may have been their ally, but they probably didn't want their gold for reconstructing their motherland to be entrusted to Asians. Were they a little racist? Still, it's hard to imagine any other option for them. I mean, they brought up Asian, not people who are not Italian.
他に手はないという者もいるし、それでも祖国に忠誠を尽くすべきだという者もいる。少尉は板挟みになってるわ。
Hiding this gold was a final order given to them by their fallen homeland. However, by now, there was no way for that order to be carried out successfully. If the mainland or their own homeland found out, the gold would probably be confiscated by the wrong people from their point of view. If they really wanted to carry out their homeland's orders faithfully, Lieutenant Yamamoto's proposal was extremely reasonable. Though the lieutenant couldn't understand their words, it seemed he realized how divided they were.
我々が協力すれば、あの黄金を厳重に隠すことができるぞ。
Oh fuck.
幸いなことに、廃棄された地下壕が長々とこの島の地下を横断している。
この島の地下に黄金を隠して埋めれば、誰にも発見できないと言ってる。
現実的な申し出だと議論してるわ。でも日本人の手を借りるのに抵抗を感じてるみたい。
議論が難航しているようです。
Damn, so episode 1 really did have everything you needed to figure out the mystery. But then it's still so hard to figure it out.
議論の余地などあるのか、イタリア人。我々の協力なくはあの黄金は隠せんぞ。まさかいつまでも波打ち際に積み上げておくわけにもいくまい。
アンジェロ少尉は黄金のことを知る人間を最小で抑えたいみたい。日本人は信用できないけど、山本中尉の申し出が今は最善と見てるみたいよ。でもいぶかしがってるわ。
何を
10トンの黄金を隠すという労力の提供と守秘義務を彼らが本当に無償で提供してくれるのか。
注意、それはまさか。
Wow, 50-50?
あの黄金の半分を我々によこせ。それを手間賃に残りの半分を厳重に隠してやろう。
半分をよこせと言って。
Wow, man, absolutely. You know what's crazy? He can strong arm them. What are they gonna do? They can't do anything. The instant Beatrice translated the sentence, Ensign Angelo slammed his hands onto the desk and stood up. Instead of flinching, Lieutenant Yamamoto, true to his boasts of once being a thug that everyone feared, actually looked even more relaxed and confident than he had previously.
本来なら断りようのない話だ。
Yes, he knows it. Damn, he's strong-arming them so bad.
それを敬意を表して五分と五分にしようと提案しているのだ。これは我々だけに有利な話ではない。イタリア人たちが外部にこのことを漏らせば、全ての黄金は日本かイタリアに接収されるだろう。我々には1円たりとも転がり込んでこない。我々は全員が共犯でなくてはならない。
全員着服の共犯になると言ってる。周囲はすでに軍人としてでなく個人として話をしている。
なんてこと。黄金に目がくらんだのね。
Lieutenant Yamamoto was grinning. It really did look as though he had been blinded by greed, just as Beatrice.
あのまま山積みにしていれば、 やがて本土から来る迎えの連中の目にいやおうなく入る。そうなればここにいる誰もが得をしないぞ。我々の申し出を受けて早急に黄金を隠すべき。
アンジェロ少尉は日本政府やイタリア政府にはどうしても知られたくないみたい。彼は自分が与えられた任務に最後まで責任を持ちたいみたいよ。
つまりどういうことだ。
何割かを口止め料として与えてるの。島内に地中深く埋めることを望んでるわ。もちろん下士官たちには異論もあるみたい。5割は問題外だと憤慨してるわ。
後ろにイタリア人たちの感触はどうだ。
彼らの黄金がこれ以上の人目につくことを望んでいないようです。しかし取り分に異論があるようです。
少尉は1割ならば検討できると言ってるわ。山本中尉はそれで納得しないだろうとも言ってるけど。
後ろ宮、イタリア人の返事はいかに。
How about 10% only to Yamamoto? He's the only one who gets the money. I'm pretty sure he'll be happy with that.
検討すると。
This time, it was Lieutenant Yamamoto who slammed down on the desk. But the Italians didn't flinch either. An incredible tension filled the small room. However, despite his violent outburst a second ago, Lieutenant Yamamoto's expression still looked smug and in control. He was probably confident that he now had the initiative.
1割それはつつましやかな提案だ。いいだろう。なら1割を譲ってやろう。しぶろく。これ以上は譲らんと伝えろ。
Damn, 40% for the Japanese, 60% for the Italians. The lieutenant made it sound like he was willing to stand firm on that, but in truth, the negotiations were not being made on an equal footing. If the Italians just wanted the gold for themselves, there wouldn't be much of a problem. But what if? What if they really were true patriots and decided that they ought to return the gold, even to the defeated puppet government of their homeland for the purpose of reconstruction? If so, they would probably report the existence of the gold to the Italian embassy. Eventually, the Italian government would petition the Allied nations for a retrieval of their gold. It probably wouldn't make it all the way back to Italy, but it might be used effectively to repair and rebuild the battered towns. If that happened, Lieutenant Yamamoto and his friends would only be able to sneak out a few ingots at most. He was greedily planning to make his own treasure island, so that he and his subordinates could have an enormous fortune all to themselves. If he wanted those ambitions to bear out, the Italians would have to conceal their presence of the gold.
しかし疑問だ。アンジェロ少尉が誰にも黄金を渡したくないなら、沈みゆく潜水艦に任せて沈めればよかったはず。どうして
考えたくはないけれど、命令が遂行不能になった時点で少尉はこの黄金を横領することを考え始めたのかも。彼は今下士官たちに軍人としての意見と祖国に家族が待つ一個人としての意見を聞きたいと言っているわ。堅物の下士官たちは激高してる。
The discussion between the Italians was becoming fierce and emotional. Though their homeland had fallen, they had come all this way in accordance with its orders. They had probably been given this mission because they were particularly faithful and duty-minded troops. It seemed they couldn't just agree to a foreigner's proposal to embezzle and split up the gold. Angelo looked like he was doing all he could to calm the unexpectedly fervent rage of his subordinates. It looks like the gold is blinding them too. It seems no one can sort out their own personal feelings and the way they want to be perceived.
奴らの返答はいかに。後ろ宮。
リーチェン、周囲が返事を求めてる。
考える時間が欲しいと言ってるわ。私はあなたと話せたから気が紛れてよかったけれど、 他の人たちはそうじゃないの。とても長い後悔の果てに大勢の仲間を失って極限状態でここにいるの。唯一の心の拠り所だった任務ももはや喪失してる。どうすればいいのか彼らも分かってないの。
注意、彼らは時間が欲しいと言っています。
いいとも大いに議論したらいい。しかし時間はないぞ。隠すとなったら時間と手間がかかる。明日の正午までに結論しろ。以上だ、イタリア人ども。
回答期限明日の正午だそうだ。注意ね、まるで脅迫だ。
少尉は全員の意見を聞くと言ってるわ。
感触は
多分難航するわ。少尉自身は山分けもあり得ると考えてるみたいだけど、下士官や他の仲間たちは多分反対するわ。みんなこの極東までの航海で大切な仲間を大勢失ってる。彼らは頑なに祖国への忠誠を貫きたがってる。
注意の申し出が
断ってもどうせ黄金は誰かの手に渡るわ。何も残らないならせめてインゴットの一本ずつでも密かに持ち帰ろうという少尉の言い分に同調者も出そうだけど、こういう時の男って勢いだけが迷走するわ。私も見当がつかない。
Man, what a tricky situation. Man, money always causes
イ
problems.
タリア人たちの胸中は複雑でしょうね。
彼らにとって降伏後のイタリアは敵国同然だ。黄金をそのイタリアに返還するのは彼らの長い旅路を全て否定するのと同じだ。
しかし黄金を着服して山分けすることも彼らの旅路の否定になります。
彼らが義理立てすべき姿はすでに滅んだ。その時点で彼らの旅路の意味などもう失われている。気の毒な話だ。
どうせ意味のないことならインゴットの一本でもありつけた方がまだマシだと。
損得感情で言えばそうなる。そうならねえのな。
The Italians were gathered in a cramped room, arguing fiercely.
反対です。死んだ戦友たちのためにも断固軍人魂を貫くべきです。
貫くとはどういうことか。この島に黄金を隠せということか。東洋人たちの申し出を受けるということか。
東洋人たちは信用できません。特にあの山本という男、断じて油断できません。
黄金を荷上げして日本人たちに見られたのはやはり失敗でした。艦と共に沈めるべきでした。
日本人の基地で沈めてどうする。やがていつかは引き上げられる。隠したことにはならない。いずれにせよこの島から黄金を。
洋上で名誉ある自鎮を選んでいたらこんなことには。
艦のダメージが致命的だったことがあの時点で分かっていたら、どうしてあの時少佐は日本軍に救援要請を。日本軍にこの黄金のことを知られたら少佐はどう任務を遂行するつもりだったんだ。
少佐が救援要請を出した時点で我々の任務はもう失敗していたんだ。諸君にも祖国で待つ家族がいるはずだ。そして極東の島国までよく航海に耐えた。それに対するこれは正当な報酬なのだという考え方もある。
あの時日本人に助けなど求めていなかった。
死んだ親友たちが浮かばれない。こんな目に。
少尉、日本人が友好的でない場合、我々は最終的解決手段を辞さない覚悟が必要です。
Oh shit, I was thinking they're gonna do that.
伍長、 最終的解決手段とは何か。
Someone gulped. A stiff tension hung over the room.
日本人たちはたるみ切っています。実戦経験もない腰抜けばかりです。我々は精兵です。すでに基地内の間取りのほぼ全てと日本人の人数、配置状況は把握しています。
Wow,
勝
really?
利の命令があれば短時間で制圧できるでしょう。戦闘員と思わしきは山本を含めて数人程度。残りは軍属の作業員風情です。上辺の人数は日本人が上ですが、実質兵力ではこちらが優位です。
日本人を殺せば迎えの船が来た時、それをどう説明する。ごまかしようがないぞ。
死体さえ見つからなければどうとでもごまかせます。勝利、この基地を制圧するのは容易です。山本以下主要な兵士数人を殺してみせればあっさりと作業員たちを降伏するでしょう。彼らに黄金を運ばせ地中に埋めましょう。もちろん彼らの口は永遠に塞ぎますが、
日本人たちを皆殺しにするということか。
殺しましょう。全員殺せば黄金のことは誰にも知られずに済むのです。
At that moment, the door, which had supposedly been locked, opened slightly, and a metal object was thrown in. What? Oh shit! As a yell rang out, the table was kicked over to be used as a shield, and they all dropped to the floor. However, in this cramped room, it probably wouldn't do them any good. The Italians were all prepared for death. Fortunately, the shotty grenade was a dud. The door was slammed open, and 3 Japanese soldiers wielding pistols jumped in! Oh shit, they're gonna kill each other, bitch! In this small room, no matter who shot where, it was bound to hit someone. The exchange of bullets instantly caused a rain of blood, with casualties on both sides. The ricochet, bitch! The 3 who had jumped in were covered with bullet holes and fell over, moaning and thrashing. The 3 Japanese, they're all dead? Oh hell no, the lung? The grenade was still rolling about on the floor. It had been a surprise attack. Lieutenant Yamamoto had probably judged that the negotiations would not go his way and had decided to make the first move. Or else, maybe he had been planning from the beginning to put them in the position of having to take a vote, in order to gather them all in one place. Wow, Rokkenjima belonged to the Japanese. If they killed all of the Italians, then not half, but all the gold would go to them. There was still a chance the grenade might go off-road. The Italians rushed out into the corridor. Oh shit. They heard gunfire from down the hallway. It was coming from the direction of the subordinates' dock. Submarine dock. Clearly the troops guarding the pile of gold were being attacked. Kill everyone, that's the fucking order, bitch! Oh shit, it's gonna be a fucking massacre! Bitch, that shit will be so loud in there. Damn, bitch. It just turned into straight chaos. God damn, bitch. Man, as soon as I heard the sound of repeated gunfire, I knew that whatever it was that had been smoldering since the time the gold was unloaded had finally burst into flames. The eyes of our soldiers, when looking at the gold, had not been normal. Yes, those eyes had been entranced like demons. The Italians had also been at a breaking point due to the heavy burden they bore. Who wouldn't have snapped after becoming trapped in a distant land where you can't understand the language or the writing? Yes, that's what I mentioned. Thinking I had to do something, I ran towards the sound of gunfire. Looking back on it, that was an extremely foolish thing to do. That sound meant that there were people shooting at each other, people killing each other, and yet, unarmed as I was, I dashed towards that sound, as though I was trying to medicate some schoolyard fight. Mediate. It didn't take long before I learned how foolish and naive such a thing was in the heat of battle. Warrant Officer Hiraoka was lying face down, his entire body drenched in blood. Judging by the trail of blood behind him, it was clear that he had somehow managed to crawl here from a different room before dying. No, he was still twitching. He might not be dead yet. But on this island without a doctor, no, even if we had a doctor, how could anyone possibly save a man who had been shot this many times in the chest? Oh, he's dead, bitch. Well, maybe if you, like, put something over it. Did it hit a lung? When I looked into the room he must have crawled out of, I saw 2 more bloodstained Japanese corpses. Yes, the other 2. I fell backward pathetically on my butt, my mouth hanging open in shock. Come to think of it, that was the first time I'd ever faced death in my life. The entire world was at war. Even though millions were dying both east and west, this was the first time I met with a person's death directly. Ridiculous. Didn't I join the army hoping to die? Didn't I whine about not being sent to the front lines? Yeah, so rejoice, kinzo. Isn't this the death you were looking for? Why not spread your hands and yell out loud? Come for me, magnificent death. Someone came running towards me. It was a colleague of mine, a Japanese man, Tajima-kun. He dashed towards me, pale-faced and out of breath. His face seemed horribly contorted with terror. Mine probably looked the same. Someone yelled in Italian, and at the same time, Tajima-kun let out a scream. Then, he grabbed onto me as he fell to the floor. A red stain spread across his back. Fuck me! A red stain was spreading across his back before my eyes. As he spat bubbles of blood, he said that one word and died. But the shocking event of seeing someone die right in front of me did not capture my attention. No living thing is connected with the deaths of others at a fundamental level. The one thing that matters is whether they let themselves die or not. My attention was fully occupied by the barrel of the gun the Italian soldier was pointing. Tajima-kun's back burst once more as he leaned against me. Flesh tore, blood splattered. The warm splash of it covered my face. Was the Italian still trying to finish him off, even though he had stopped moving for good? How foolish I've been. Can I still not understand the scene in front of me? Rejoice, Kinzo. Now you'll finally get what you've wanted all this time. The Italians hadn't fired to finish off Tajima-kun. He had been aiming at the man Tajima-kun had fallen on, me, Ushiromiya Kinzo. I pushed his corpse aside, scrabbled against the floor, and dashed away, tumbling over myself. My hands had pushed off against the floor, hard enough to tear off the ring fingernail on my left hand. Oh fuck. When faced with death, humans truly can resist with all they've got. I tumbled over and over as I ran, scraping up parts of my body. It was painful, hot, but that didn't matter at all. I heard the yelling in Italian come from behind me over and over again. It felt like they were running, chasing after me. I didn't want to look back, so I kept on running and running, as though the Italians were right behind me. This is death. Didn't you want to die? No, I don't want to die. Why? Didn't I want to die so badly? But now I know. I know how wonderful it is to be alive. She taught me. Bichi. I can only be free when I talk with him. No! by talking with her. I was finally alive for the first time. I was finally born. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I want to live. I don't want to die. I want to live and see her right now. If I don't see her, I'll die. I'll be killed. Stay cool, kinzo. She might be killed too. If you live and she dies, you might as well be dead. Before I knew it, my face was covered in tears, snot, and drool. When I stumbled over something and fell, I was finally able to come to my senses a little. I could still hear intermittent gunfire. The gunfire was still going on. The gunfight. And it had spread throughout the entire base. Beatrice, are you okay? I'll find her and take her to a safe place. The lieutenant will probably kill all of the Italians to steal the gold. Beatrice probably won't be an exception.
Beatrice.
Meeting you was the first time I ever lived. The first time I was ever born. So if you die, I'll die again. I could feel every cell in my body being reborn, not as Ushiromiya Kinzo, but as a completely different Kinzo. Of course, I was terrified that I might really be shot if I went back, but I no longer wanted to die, in the truest possible sense. So, I was able to overcome my fear. Oh shit. Ruben stood with Beatrice behind his back and neatly shot the two men rushing at him with two 9mm bullets from his Beretta M1934. However, one of the 8mm bullets from their Type 94 semi-auto pistol went straight into Ruben's chest. All three of the shooters were struck into the chest and fell down in a heap. The next person to appear was the commanding officer of the Japanese soldiers, Yamamoto. The blast of 3 guns had just sounded. Adding on Beatrice's screams, it was hardly surprising that he had noticed the encounter. Yamamoto spat. Beatrice used that moment to snatch up Ruben's gun. Whoa, she gonna kill him? He spat the last part at the 2 dying men who lay moaning at his feet. However, it wasn't particularly surprising, and this wasn't the only place it was happening. Nearly everyone met head-on in these tiny, cramped tunnels. When both sides shot recklessly in a situation like that, the result was 2 corpses. So the way to be fastest was to pull the trigger immediately the moment you sensed another person. That was the only way to make it through this battle without ending up with a bullet in your chest. Because of this, both Japanese and Italians killed each other without hesitation, and they sometimes even pulled the trigger on their own countrymen when they unexpectedly ran into each other. Wow, what idiots! And in the midst of all this, a large number of Japanese men who had no idea what was going on ran towards the noise and became victims of one after another. It didn't matter whether the other person was holding a gun or not. Everyone reflexively pulled the trigger at the sight of anyone other than themselves trying to stay alive. The slaughter engulfed the entire base. there was a fierce gun battle taking place in the submarine dock, and a massacre resembling a hunt was taking place inside the base. Shit. Most of the non-combatants assigned to this base were killed before they knew what was going on. The Italians were indeed quite seasoned troops, but their numbers began to drop bit by bit. Blood-stained corpses lay scattered all across the base. At first, it had probably been a proper gunfight. However, as they gradually became desensitized, it evolved into that most basic cause of wars throughout humanity, the desire to kill all foreigners you don't understand. Whenever they heard words they didn't understand, they pulled the trigger. By that point, the screams of foreigners sounded no different from those of man-shaped beasts. After all, they couldn't understand pleading in another language. So it had long ago turned into a mere massacre. As the numbers of dead surpassed the numbers of living, silence began to return to the base. Just when it felt as though everyone had died in the desolate sound of the wind, just as it felt as though everyone had died and the desolate sound of the wind blew through the caves, there would be a sudden scream, the crisp sound of a gun, and one would remember that the massacre still wasn't over. This happened over and over again, until eventually true silence fell. It marked the pitiful end of those who led astray, It marked the pitiful end for those led astray by gold and greed. The leader of the Italian soldiers, Angelo, had managed to survive somehow. He encountered nothing but the corpses of friends and foe. All was quiet once more in the base. If he was careless enough to call out, he might be shot from the shadows somewhere. So, he snuck about like a panther, breathing quietly and searching for the remaining enemies. There was no sign or trace of any living person. Maybe all of the people in this base had died. The Japanese struck first, but at that time, we were also talking about killing them. They simply made the first move as military men, so perhaps I should be grateful for today. Even if the boat had come to take us away, there would have been no honor for us. We would have been mere failures in our mission, unfit to face our dead comrades. Perhaps dying here in the Far East alongside my gun is a more fitting end for a soldier. From around the corner, I noticed the sound of a leg being dragged along the ground, and I strained to hear. Is someone seriously wounded and shuffling with a limp? Noticing them before they noticed me greatly helps my chances. At this stage, there's no point in taking prisoners. We must dispose of all the Japanese. I'll dash around the corner, quickly check to see who they are, and if it's a Japanese person, I'll shoot. Nothing more. I've been hiding my footsteps the whole time. They probably don't know I'm here. Once the shuffling footsteps had come up close enough, Angelo leaned around the corner and raised his gun. The voice that reached him spoke Italian.
Kisamaを探していたぞ、アンジェロ少尉。これで全員だな。俺はしっかり貴様らの死体を数えて回ってたんだからな。
しっかりして、アンジェロ少尉。
Fuck, I thought he shot Beatrice. Blood poured from Angelo's chest. His gun fell to the floor, then his knees, and then the rest of his body crumpled and stopped moving. Yamamoto's accuracy with the gun wasn't particularly stellar. However, Angelo had waited until they were fairly close before jumping out, so Yamamoto had been able to hit his target. And he had managed it with a short-barreled handgun in one hand, and a woman as a hostage in the other.
それにしても我が六軒島守備隊の情けないことよ。まさか私以外は全員死んだのではあるまい。やれやれく。
女を盾に取らなきゃ きゃ戦えない人手だし離して
静かにしろ。イタリア女は実に騒がしい。おとなしくしてれば命までは取らんという。
It was such an obvious lie that even he wore a bitter smile. The Italians were spies working for the enemy, and they all died along with the garrison in a gunfight. That was the story Yamamoto wanted to tell, and so he couldn't afford to have any Italian survivors. At this point, he wouldn't be able to keep the entire pile of gold, but he could at least grab as many ingots as he could carry. Even that would be worth a huge amount of money. Beatrice suddenly swung her head, smashing Yamamoto's nose hard. It's gonna be fucking Kinzo, isn't it? He's gonna shoot him! She almost managed to escape. However, Yamamoto quickly grabbed her leg and tripped her. She fell onto her back, and Yamamoto mercilessly stomped his foot down on her stomach and pointed his gun. Oh, Jesus, her stomach? She's gonna bleed internally from that shit. Kinzo had jumped out from the shadows. He was holding a gun. You know what? I'm calling it. He's gonna shoot Yamamoto that he had stolen from one of the corpses. Damn, now he's coming up with conspiracies. Alright, you have every right to kill him. Yamamoto didn't know that the grenade had been a dud. The surprise attack, which he had been certain would work, had failed. So he had decided that Kinzo must have tipped him off. Wow, what a fucking conspiracy theory ass motherfucker. He's just finding anything to blame. Yeah, sure. Yamamoto ground his heel into Beatrice's gut. He's aiming his gun? Nah, you have to kill him. He is so fucking two-faced. Damn, he called him out. Without any hesitation, Yamamoto raised the barrel of his gun towards Kinzo and pulled the trigger. It grazed Kinzo's right ear. If Yamamoto had been just a bit better, the bullet would undoubtedly have slammed into Kinzo's face. Kinzo! Wait, I want to check something really quickly. Hold on. Because they said that. Okay, never mind. Not letting Yamamoto's momentary distraction go to waste, Beatrice lashed out and planted her right foot into Yamamoto's crotch. After moaning in pain, a demonic expression flashed across Yamamoto's face, and he stomped on her chest. Oh, that is, dude, you're gonna break her ribs, and they're gonna fucking stab into her lungs. Beatrice shut her eyes tightly, hoping that she could withstand the coming pain. No one would want to have their eyes open at a moment they were shot. I knew it. Thick spurts of blood spurted out of Yamamoto's chest.
あんたがあんたの都合で大勢の命を奪ったように、私も私の都合であんたの命を奪っ。
Oh fuck, man, I keep Was Yamamoto able to hear the last of Kinzo's words to him? In his last moments, Yamamoto seemed to grin. Then, slowly, he fell over backwards, a river of blood trailing from his body.
Kinzo! 無事なの？てっきりあなたが撃たれたと。
Beatrice tried to stand up, but then doubled over and started coughing. Right, I mean, she just got her torso is fucked. Her chest, her stomach. Right.
その人でなしが激しく踏んだものだから。
大丈夫か？折れていなければいいんだが。
これくらいで折れるほどイタリア女はヤワじゃないの。でもありがとう。あなたは命の恩人だわ。あなたが来なければ私はきっとそこに転がっていたわ。
Yamamoto had shown no mercy. Her ribs were probably cracked. We didn't have the option of waiting, possibly for several days, for the ship that was coming. I made the decision to ferry her off this island. The man who kept yelling about perceiving the secrecy of the base is lying there dead. The next island over, Niijima, is close. A small boat should be able to take us there.
君を病院へ運ばなければならない。君が思っているより傷が深かったらいけない。
知らなかった。この島には病院もあるのね。
ない。隣の島へ船で運ぶ。君は病院へ。私はこの島での出来事をうまく片付けないと。とばっち。
頼みがあるの。
Court martial?
私を病院へ連れて行かないで。
どうして？
病院へ行って大使館に連絡が行けば私はやがて本国へ送還されるわ。そしてきっとあれこれと尋問を受けるんだわ。私はママを見殺しにした奴らを自分の祖国とは認めないの。もう私の帰るべき祖国はないの。ここが私の終点だからもう私はどこへも行きたくないの。私に優しくしてくれたアンジェロ少尉もルーベンスもみんな死んでしまった。
だから君までここで死ぬとイタリア女はヤワじゃないんだろ。生きるんだ。
ねえ金蔵、生きるってどういう意味？あなたが教えてくれたはずよ。生きるってのはただ息をすることじゃないわ。私はイタリアへ帰りたくないの。
ビーチ。
あなたは私と出会うまで死んでいたと言ってくれたわ。でもそれは私も同じなの。潜水艦の中で祖国も滅び ママも死んだ。パパもね。私はこんな風に沈んでしまえと願ったわ。だからここにたどり着いた時、実は死に損ねたとがっかりした。その矢先よ。少尉が英語がわかる者はいるかと騒ぎ出したの。
When Kinzo met Beatrice, he finally forgot about dying. And when Beatrice met Kinzo, she also forgot about dying.
私は祖国も家族も友人たちも失った私をあなたにさらってほしいと願うの。
ピーちゃん。
でもそれは叶えられない望みだとも分かってる。ならばせめて迎えの船が来るまでの数日間をあなたと一緒にいたいの。胸の痛みなんて気にしない。だって迎えの船に連れ去られたら私はもう死んでしまうのだから。
Wow! Beatrice spoke this, smiling softly. She did her best to hide the pain in her chest.
お願い、金蔵。迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいから私をさらって。
その願いは叶えられない。
Damn it! Looking apologetic, Kinzo lifted Beato up and gently sat her in the boat.
育児なし。
Right!
やっぱり日本の男は軟弱だわ。
そうだな。私は育児なしだ。だから君の願いは片方しか叶えられない。
With a clunk, he placed the object wrapped in a jacket into the boat.
片方とは？
迎えが来るまでの数日間でいいからの方は叶えられないということさ。
どういう意味？
君をさらう。そっちを叶えることにした。
Okay.
金蔵。
There has to be a doctor on Nijima. I'm wearing a navy uniform. I should be able to pass myself off as a survivor off of a boat carrying a VIP that was sunk by enemy ships. If the doctor happens to be the greedy sort, all the better. After all, I have right here the golden magic to make people do what I say. Is this how he meets Nanjol? Because they're about the same age. She came from a distant country, took my lifeless body, and gave me a soul. The witch, who came bearing gold, revived me with her magic.
君は魔女だ。黄金の魔女だ。
黄金の魔女よ。
Wow.
みんなと同じレシピで作っている。私だけがパスタから消し炭を生み出す錬金術が使えるの。あなたと同じく私もあなたがいてくれる限り生きることを許される仕方があなたがいなくなったら私はすぐにでも死んでしまう。
死なせない。
本当に？
絶対に。
だってね、責任。だってあなたは私をさらったんだから。
Wow. Yeah.
「そうですか。
金蔵さんがそこまで話しましたか。
では、まさかあなたなのですか？おじい様がベアトリーチェを連れて行った新島の医者というのは。
驚くに値しねえ。新島の医者って時点でピンとくる。
突然海軍の兵隊さんが外国人の女性を連れて現れたのです。驚きましたとも。しかもその上軍機なので秘密で治療しろというのです。
それがおじい様との初対面だったのですか？
そうです。それが金蔵さんと初めての対面でした。
Damn, I knew it, old
黄
friend.
金で言いなりになった欲深な医者ってのもお前のことなのか。
これは手厳しいですな。突然外国人の女性患者を連れ込み、軍機だから秘密にせよと言い、治療代は必ず持ってくるから担保にと言って黄金のインゴットを差し出す相手ですぞ。厄介事はごめんでした。しぶしぶとですとも。
確かにそれもそうですね。でも南條先生はベアトリーチェをかくまってくれたんですね。
金蔵さんほどではありませんが、私にも英語の心得がありました。二人の会話を漏れ聞き、二人が決して厄介な何者かでないと確信したからです。もちろんインゴットに目がくらまなかったといえば嘘が過ぎますがな。私も今よりは若かったものですから。
その後彼女は
しばらくの療養の後、後宮家の使いの方が来て小田原に移すとおっしゃいましてな。引き取られていきました。
おじい様が自分で迎えに行ったわけではないのですか？
金蔵がどう六軒島の事件を言い訳したにせよ、しばらくの間は自由には動けなかっただろうよ。
ですな。軍をごまかすのが金蔵さんの人生で一番の大勝負だったと言っておりましたな。
ベアトリーチェは小田原に行って、それから
使われていない別荘の一つにかくまったと聞いています。当時の金蔵さんにはもう家族がおられましたからな。そこはうまくやられたのでしょうな。
クワドリアン以前から二重生活はお手の物だったというわけだ。
何してるんですか？
Maybe
お
something
尻のお弟子
clicked.
でも？それからベアトリーチェはおじい様の保護で別荘でいつまでも
平穏につつましやかに暮らしたと聞きます。それから数年の後、彼女に子供が生まれましてな。
クワドリアンのベアトリーチェの誕生か。
出産がうまくいかなかったそうで。
There we go,
気
bitch.
の毒なことです。
まさか亡くなったんですか？
驚くな。金蔵は娘を生まれ変わりと信じたんだぞ。心をないがしろにするんじゃねえ。推理は可能だ。
そうですね。失礼。
私は金蔵さんが彼女と過ごされた小田原の数年間を知りません。しかしその後の今日までの金蔵さんを見れば、ほんの数年間であっても彼がいかに彼女を深く愛したか伺い知ることができるでしょう。
Wow.
そうですね。
そ
That's
して
so. This is the
娘のために
origin.
クワドリアンを作ったというわけか。
金蔵さんは潜水艦の黄金を元手に巧みに立ち回り、たちまちのうちに財産を築き上げていきました。また持ち前の英語力を生かし GHQ に強いコネクションを作って、みるみるうちに大富豪となられたのです。
Yes, GHQ. Oh, yes, I remember this from episode 1.
この辺はリオンさんに説明する必要はありますまい。
その莫大な財産で六軒島を買い取り屋敷を建てます。小田原の親族たちは無人島を丸ごと買い取ったおじいさまを酔狂だと笑ったそうです。
10トンの黄金がポケットに収まる大きさだったなら、金蔵も島を買わなかったろうよ。
He hid the gold somewhere on Rokkenjima, built up a fortune with the ingots he'd taken out of it, and then bought up the whole treasure island.
ですな。そして後宮家の黄金伝説が始まるのです。
インゴットには片翼のワシが刻印されていた。
Oh shit, I completely forgot about that.
片翼のワシというよりは片翼に見えてしまうワシというべきでしょうな。
それはどういう意味ですか？
ヨーロッパに多いでしょう。翼を広げたワシを紋章にしたものは、サロ共和国の国旗にもワシが、いやいや鷹でしたかなが刻まれています。
刻印が薄かった、あるいは粗雑だったということか。
そうです。戦時下の粗雑な刻印でした。本来は翼を広げたワシの紋章が刻印されるべきだったのでしょう。それがちょうど斜めに立ち切ったように半分薄れて消えていたのです。
翼を広げたワシが半分消えて、それが片翼のワシに見えた。
Damn, bitch. Holy fuck, we're learning everything.
ベアトリーチェの黄金に片翼のワシを見て、それを自分の紋章とすることを決めたに違いあるまい。
Yes, that's how he... Holy
果たして
fuck.
正しく刻印されていたなら、それは共和国旗の鷹だったのか、それともまさか相当の、いやいや、そんなまさかあの莫大な黄金の山の前で金蔵さんと杯を傾け合いながら黄金ロマンで夜を明かすのはなかなかに楽しいことでした。もっとも金蔵さんはその刻印から黄金の出所を探られることを嫌いましてな。外部に持ち出す黄金にはわざわざ自分の片翼のワシをデザインした別の刻印を打ち直していたようですが。
お前には見せるだけだったのか。金蔵もケチだな。
無論大富豪になった後、金蔵さんは再び私のもとへ訪れ、治療費にはちと多すぎましたのでな。ちゃんとお釣りを払いましたが。
それ以来おじいさまと交流を？
そうです。金蔵さんは私が秘密を守ってベアトリーチェをかくまったことをことのほか深く感謝してくれましてな。
おじいさまはかつての小田原の親族たちは欲深の嘘つきばかりだとおっしゃっていました。南條先生の義理堅さが嬉しかったに違いありません。おじいさまのような方がどうしてあなたにだけは心を開いたのかわかる気がします。
私にも多少の異国趣味とチェスの趣味がありましてな。金蔵さんとは以来意気を統合しまして、こうして細々と、しかし気づけば随分と長くお付き合いをさせてもらっています。
大きな金を扱うやつほど小さな金にもきっちりしてる。治療費以上をもらおうとしなかったあんたの律儀さに惹かれるところもあったんだろうよ。
とんでもない。大きなお金に怯えてしまっただけです。後になってから後悔しましたとも。
Right.
どうにも昔から肝が小さいものでしてな。
そんなことはね。肝は十分に不定さ。
そうでしょうか。
Is he calling him fat?
政治でも嬉しいですね。
政治じゃねえ。
After Kinzo dies, Nanjo is complicit in keeping his death a secret for at least a whole year. Of course, Natsuki must have given him a fairly hefty sum of hush money. Damn! All the same, He's at least gutsy enough to withstand the pressure from Kinzo's children for that amount of time without slipping up once.
大した肝っ玉じゃねえか。義理がたいのがお前の性分なんだろうよ。
それしか取り柄がないものでして。
おじい様は良い友人に恵まれたと思います。
Holy shit. Holy shit. The revelations, bitch. The absolute revelations that just fucking happened. Holy. Beatrice came from Italy. My boy working for the government was stationed at the back of Rokkenjima in that cave. He met her. They brought the gold to rebuild Italy or whatever government that they wanted to, their homeland. Obviously this fight broke out. They all died. She got injured. He took her to Nanjo, bought off that silence. He then took her to Odawara, and there they lived until they had Beatrice, his daughter, living a double life in the meanwhile. And during the birth, original Beatrice ended up dying, and Kinzo, through all his pain and refusal to accept that shit, named his daughter Beatrice after his wife. She looked just like her and he could not accept it. Man, I want to read episode 1 before going any further. Maybe. So that I could at least get some more theories in. Right. I don't fucking know, man. Holy shit.